welcome back to part 3 of this Photography Basics series. Been a bit of a journey, hasn't it? Really short videos, but it feels like I've been talking for a long time. But anyway, like I said, this is part 3. This is the final part of the exposure triangle. We've gone through aperture and what that does. We've gone through ISO, not ISO, remember. We've gone through ISO and what that does. So this part is on shutter speed. What it is, what it does, and how it actually affects the other two. So if you haven't watched part 1 or part 2, I will link them below so you can check them out to your heart's content. So shutter speed. When we talk about shutter speed, we are literally talking just about that. No photography mumbo jumbo, it doesn't mean anything else. It just means the time it takes for your shutter to open, then close. This is in seconds. Or in most cases, actually in fractions of a second. An easy way to show you how the shutter speed works is by taking this one apart, the one we have used before, and showing you it actually opening and closing. So what speed you set your shutter at, generally, and I say generally, depends on one thing. And that thing is there anything moving? And the reason why I say that is because it depends what you're shooting. For instance, if you're shooting sports where everything is moving, you don't want blurred images, do you? So you actually want to set your shutter something quick. This first image is a quick shutter speed. It's an action shot. I do shoot quite a lot of basketball when I can, so I want the action to be frozen. Quick shutter speed freezes all that. Or if you're shooting a portrait, one thing you don't want in a portrait is blur. You don't want anything kind of blurred, well, obviously apart from the background, which we did cover in aperture, remember? You can go back to it, check it, I'm on, yeah. But actually, what I'm talking about is camera blur. So if you use a shutter speed, say, I don't know, let's go mad, of a second. I feel I'm quite alright photographer, I'm quite good, a lot of practice. There's no way I'm going to be able to hold a camera perfectly still for 1 second or even half a second. It's just impossible. It's not going to happen. So you need to work out the speed you can get if you want to freeze that image. But saying that, on the other side, you can use one of these. That is a tripod. This, apart from a camera, is probably the most used thing I have. This is a lifesaver. And in landscape photography, very, very rarely will you see a decent landscape photographer not using one of these. The reason it's so important is because you want everything still. You don't have to worry about your shutter speed then. And if you're shooting an image, the shutter speed is actually the last thing you want to think about. So this is very important. But what about slow shutter speeds? When do they come into effect? Well, let me show you this image and see what you think. So this is an image of a waterfall. I've taken the creative decision to slow my shutter speed right down. It's actually around about a second, this one. The reason why I've done that is because I want this water looking like kind of smooth. I almost smoothed it out. It just makes it a little bit different because then you get this sense of movement. And there's another way we can use this sense of movement as well. If we're shooting like motorsport is a great one for this technique. It's basically called a panning technique as well when you do motorsport. So you'll have a car go past you and you'll actually follow the car. So the car's in focus, but the black background is blurred. This gives you, again, that sense of movement, just a little bit better. See, if I just took a picture with fast shutter speed, the car will almost all parked. And that's not what you want. You want that excitement. You want something to go, wow, that's like really moving. So you slow it down, the time it takes for you to do that. For normally kind of 1/60th of a second, 1/30th of a second, around that kind of marker will be absolutely perfect for this kind of image. So there we have it. Basic rundown, fast shutter speed, slow shutter speed, why you would want them, and why you would change them to suit the needs. I say your needs are completely dependent on what you're shooting. If something's moving, you want to freeze it, you want a fast shutter speed. If you want to slow the shutter speed down, have a sense of movement, actually have this blur, because with a slow shutter speed, remember, you will get blur. Doesn't matter how steady you actually are. But that is it. So next part, what we'll be going into is ISO, shutter speed, aperture. How these fit together. How one affects the other one, which affects this one in turn. And how we can use this completely to our advantage. And that will basically bring you right up to, I would say, my level. But that's probably debatable depending on who you ask. So this has been part 3 of Photography Basics. If you watch next week, we'll be finishing it up, putting it all together, putting all we've learned together, and possibly taking some photos outside to see how it works.